Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shannon Show. So, as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, this was supposed to be part 2 of the Heaven Officials Blessing series read through. However, I had it all done and I had it all scheduled. But basically what had happened, I said this in the disclaimers, but I just wanted to verbalize it. Basically what had happened, my computer decided to crash and like reset itself. It's fine now, but it decided to crash and reset itself, and then I lost everything. And it was in the midst of processing, so it wasn't quite published and scheduled yet, but it was almost there. But once like the crash and reset happened, I just lost everything. And I can't keep long clips and a bunch of long clips on my phone for very long just for storage space. I have a decent amount of storage. It's just I don't like to keep clips on my phone for very long, and usually what happens is once I send a video, I've talked about this on my channel before, but I edit the videos on my phone, I send it over to my computer, and once I send it to my computer, then that's when I know I can like remove the stuff from my phone. And yeah, at this point, thankfully, this was like the first and only video that this has happened with. In this specific, well, it's not the only video where I've lost the material, but like it doesn't happen often enough for me to feel like I need to hold on to it for the footage for a certain amount of time. But I think it's only happened like 2 or 3 times that I can recall. But again, part of why I don't hold on to clips onto my phone for very long past once the video is done editing and I send it to my phone, it's for storage space, just because it's like I do take a lot of photos and I do have a lot of text going back and forth, and that's the video clips that I record for YouTube. That's not something I need to hold on to or that I want to hold on to in my phone for very long. At the very least, not until I have a better setup for recording and editing and publishing and scheduling my videos. And usually I space it out so that once it's scheduling, or once I have the video scheduling and uploading and scheduling, then that's when I delete the footage from my phone. And this is where I wish Apple and the iPhones still had the recently deleted photo, or not photo, the recently deleted album, because then I could have gone back in and gotten it, because usually I don't bother with my recently deleted folder when I had it. So it's like, if that was the case, I could have easily gone back in and gotten it, but no. So here we are. This is just the overview and review for volumes 5 through 8 and just in general for the series. And like I mentioned in the video, although I am super bummed about this, I do have a video in relation to this topic and finishing out this topic. So these are the ones we're going to talk about, and then I'm just going to give my overall thoughts. I know with last week's video, part 1, I was going through some notes in the books. I only did that for volume 5, but I think I only mentioned like a couple of things. And that's the thing, it's like, yeah, I can't remember what exactly I was talking about. Okay. Yeah, it's like I do have some notes, I just don't remember which ones exactly I wanted to talk about. So volume 5, they are headed up to Mount Tonglu for a massive battle royale, basically, and the sole survivor may become the Ghost King. So that's what this one is about. You know what, I'm just going to talk about them all together at this point, because it hasn't been super long since I read these, but it has been about a week, and while this has really stuck with me, it's like not remembering what you read isn't a flex unless you really didn't like the book. But I'm kind of in the situation, I'm kind of in the mindset where it's like, it's okay to not remember books or what you read. And sometimes, depending on your current situation and things that are happening, like, even if you love the book, you may not remember everything. So that's why I think it's not always a flex, but sometimes it's understandable. Volume 6, White No-Face, Jillian's greatest fear and most hated enemy, has arrived, or so it seems. While the ghost with the half-crying, half-smiling mask is always somewhere nearby, the creature is elusive as always, taunting Jillian just out of reach and promising total destruction of everything he holds dear. That's volume 6. Volume 7. And this one, the kiln is open and White No-Face is back to his full power. The past 800 years have not blunted his hatred nor his obsession with Jillian, and he aims to break Jillian down to nothing, even if all of humanity and the heavens themselves are collateral damage. And then volume 8 is the final wrap-up, and then White No-Face's mask is off, and the final conflict has begun. Deep in the ancient caverns and lava flows of Mount Tonglu, Jillian must face the one whose hatred has plagued him for centuries. But this time he won't have to do it alone. So that's what volumes 5 through 8 are about. And honestly, I absolutely love the series. It's a large part of it for me is the fact that the relationships in these are overall very healthy and are explored in a healthy way and are talked about in a healthy way. And even with some of the relationships that aren't as healthy, it doesn't try to romanticize the less healthy, more toxic relationships. There aren't quite any toxic relationships. None of the relationships are really full-on toxic, but it doesn't romanticize them, which I feel like a lot of... I'm a big dark romance person, and a lot of not so great dark romance. There's a really good dark romance, which I personally like, where it doesn't, for me, dark romance isn't toxic relationships. It's just, sometimes it can be dark, and sometimes it can be toxic relationships. But the dark romance that touches into toxic relationships does not romanticize toxic relationships. And the usual dark romance that I like, it's more so just that they're one or both parties of the relationship are in a dark position, whether it's usually it's their jobs, the environments they grew up in, and they're okay being in those environments. And they have no intention to leave just because they're okay in it. They're leading healthy lives, etc., so on and so forth. They're in darker environments, like taboo environments maybe, and they're okay, they're doing okay. And that for me is like what a dark romance is. It's not always toxic. Toxicity can factor into it, but good, like I said, good dark romances don't romanticize the toxic part, which I feel like a lot of wannabe dark romances do, which is why I'm picky with my romance in general, but I'm also picky with my dark romance because of that. But this Heaven Official's Blessing isn't a dark romance. Why did I get on the dark romance tangent? Oh yeah, so like none of the relationships in Heaven Official's Blessing are toxic. Some of them kind of borderline on being toxic. Like if they were actually in a committed romantic relationship, it would have been toxic. That kind of a deal. But it doesn't like romanticize it. It acknowledges like this was not a good situation for the character or characters to be in. It wouldn't have been a good relationship for them to be in. And something else I really like about this series is how much communication there is. Sorry, it's pause and I wasn't hitting the pause button. How much communication there is, and how most of the characters, at least most of the main cast, the protagonists, are okay with being communicative. They encourage it. They encourage the honesty and being open with each other. Part of it is so that they're not succumbing to the situation and to the environment, but also because they realize how healthy it is. And they know that, like, it's not going to get anywhere if they're not talking and being honest. Like, this was in volume 8, I think. But there's a scene, yeah, it's in volume 8. There's a scene where Julien is holding a sword, or he has the sword out getting ready to fight if needed. And Hua Cheng kind of freaks out a little bit. He's like, put the sword away, I'll protect you. Like, it's making me think of, it's making me think that you're going to hurt yourself. So, like, I'd rather you let me protect you. And, like, Julien accepts that. And he's like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to think that. Like, and Julien, like, not in, like, the talking with Hua Cheng, but Julien, in some of, like, the thoughts and the prose, does acknowledge, like, yeah, at one point, he would have probably tried to hurt himself or maybe off himself. But he's no longer like that. He's, like, moved past that point of his life. So it's, like, it's kind of like that, where it's a healthy communicative relationships, and they're more than willing to be like, hey, I'm not comfortable with X, Y, and Z, or hey, if you're not comfortable with X, Y, and Z, we don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. I might have to do it, but you don't have to if you're not comfortable. So it's that happens throughout the series, but you see a lot of it in volumes 5 through 8. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever really get over the Blackwater arc. And with what happens to Windmaster, but once I started getting through the rest of the series, like, it didn't really, I mean, it helped being able to read the rest of the series, but at the same time, it's like, there's a part of me that will never get over the Blackwater arc, because Windmaster was my favorite character, is my favorite character, and thank God for fanfiction, because I honestly, that's the one thing that I'm not super happy with this series. Overall, like, 5 out of 5 stars. That was one plot line where I feel like, I don't know what the right term for this would be, or the right term for manhwa would be in this kind of a situation, but what I think about as an example, so I can kind of explain myself a little bit better, is in the Magic Knight Rares anime, and I need to reread the manga, but in the anime, there is, like, once you get into season 2, and basically slight spoilers for Magic Knight Rares, but end of season 1, Emerald is gone and Zagato is gone. But basically, once you get into season 2, you realize that, like, Emerald's last wish before she fully passed away and fully passed on was that people who were affected by that big battle and who died because of everything that had happened leading up to the big battle, the people who had died because as a result of that were brought back to life. And, like, it's a fantasy world. Again, I don't know what the right term for that would be. Like, so it's like in Heaven Official's Blessing, in this situation, where it's like once everything kind of, like, resets and begins to reset, I feel like things should kind of return to normal, so that they could return to normal before everything kind of went to shit, so that they could, with the awareness of everything that had happened, so that they could start rebuilding a new normal. And on the one hand, I would want this. On the other hand, I do understand why maybe that wouldn't have been the best character ending for Windmaster, for Shishuan. I'm butchering his name. But I understand why that might not have been the best character arc for Windmaster, especially near the end, where, like, Windmaster was so ridden with guilt and shame and self-deprecation. But I feel like with how the relationships were and the friendships were, I feel like it would have been able to kind of, like, not reset things for Windmaster, but it would have been able to kind of, like, help him start healing a little bit better, knowing that, like, some things were back to normal. Even though they had to create a new normal, some things would be back to normal. So it's like, I do understand both sides. Like, I do wish that when Master had gotten his God back, but at the same time, I do understand why he didn't. It's, again, like I said, it's not something I'm super happy with, but I do understand where it was coming from and why Mojang Tongju did not go with that character route for One Master. And the ending where we think we lose Hua Cheng, that was really hard to get through. Probably on par with the Blackwater arc for me, just because, like, I knew what was going to happen. Like, I had spoiled myself for the ending just to make sure. But, like, I knew what was going to happen, but it was still kind of hard reading that because it's like, oh my god, I'm so invested in the story and these characters, and I need them to be happy, and I need them to know that they're going to be happy, which is also part of my thing with One Master. Like, I know he's not going to be happy, but I want him to be happy. So it's like, so I don't want to make this too long just because I'm not talking about the individual books. So that is going to be the end of this video, and I am so happy that I have all 8 volumes and that I was able to finally read the full series. And now I can now, not necessarily safely, I was about to say safely, but I can now with some peace of mind start collecting these ones because I've read it. And this is definitely going to be more my display series. I might read it once, but I don't, at least for Heaven Official's Blessing, I don't think I'm gonna, if they come out with more variations for this, I don't think I'm gonna have more than the paperbacks and then these hardbacks. And I was thinking about it, and I was talking about it with a couple of my friends because I am collecting Lord of the Rings. And I am trying to read most of the editions of Lord of the Rings at least once, because I do read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings once a year, so I am trying to read most of my editions at least once. But they are like 90% for display. And I was kind of thinking, like, when my friends and I were talking, well, what if they have like multiple editions of this? I don't think I'm going to do that with this, just because this is, not that this is more special than Lord of the Rings, or Lord of the Rings is less special than this. It's just, they're both kind of at different points in my life. Special for different parts of my life and my life as a whole, and also came in my life at different points. So it's like, this one I'm not super worried about having multiple editions of. I do want these ones because, like, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous and I want to support the author and the artist as much as possible, but I'm not super worried about having multiple editions. And like I said, once I collect all of the hardbacks, that's going to be like it for Heaven Official's Blessing. I might do the same for Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation if I like that series enough. But yeah, so that's the plan. That is the end of this video. Again, I am trying to keep this on the shorter side since I wasn't talking about the individual novels, and I'm not doing an actual reading vlog for this part. If you've read this, let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, and I'll see you all in my next video.